and I live in Houston, and I'm a member of the Value Investors Meetup, and we get together once a month, and we always listen to your wisdom. So you shared a lot of really amazing mental models and frameworks on entrepreneurship, but I have a question. Being from Argentina, and what's happening there is kind of crazy right now with hyperinflation and a lot of problems. I wonder if you had any framework and recommendation on how to approach investing in a country that is going through a mess like Argentina. I know you have experience investing in these different countries around the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard. Well, one of the things about Argentina is that I think a large portion of the US dollar bills in circulation outside the United States are in Argentina. They're either in Argentina or in Iran. You know, those are the two places that have all the dollar bills. But it's a huge amount of it is in Argentina.
Yes.
And the reason is that a lot of transactions take place in dollars.
Yes.
Not only do they take place in dollars, but like, you know, if you're buying an apartment, they don't trust like a wire transfer or something. You show up with the stacks of cash in dollars at the closing. Then you move the stacks over. And so these people like, you know, have these stacks, and then you've got false floors, and you've got safes and all kinds of things. And sometimes people forget about these stacks, and they end up on the street, and there's money flying around. You heard those stories, right?
Yes.
All these things going on. So it's a wild place. Well, I mean, I have investments in Turkey, which has about 80% annual inflation. And basically the way I approached it was that I focused on businesses where the revenues were only in euros or dollars, and the expenses were in lira. And so like the CFO of one of the companies was explaining to me that he said, Mohnish, every time the lira drops by 10%, our earnings in euros go up by 3%. I said, hallelujah. Let's keep banging on that 80% till infinity, okay? Because we don't really care about the 80% anymore. We want it to keep going. So, like for example, I mean, I didn't invest in this company, but there's a juice company in Turkey where 98% is exported, and the revenues in euros, and they have this dynamic. So, you know, there were like 100 investable businesses in Turkey, and about 3 of them had this type of dynamic. And no one's interested in Turkey because of the inflation. I just focused on the 3%, and life is great. And in one case, the market cap was 20 million, and the liquidation value was 700 million. And the liquidation value has gone up to close to $1 billion now. So even with the inflation and all that made no difference. In dollars, I mean, these are just in dollars. In lira, it went up crazy. So I would say that to the extent that in Argentina, you can hone in on that type of a dynamic where the revenues, because I think with the inflation headwind like Argentina has, it's really hard. The other thing that is an even better answer than that is don't invest in Argentina. you're in Austin, man.
That's why I'm in Texas.
Exactly, yeah. So, you know, there are 2 ways. One is, you know, you can take the root canal and try to enjoy the root canal. And the second is you just, you know, go have a pina colada. You know, and so that can work out just as well. So, other questions? Maybe just pass the mic, yeah.
Hello, good afternoon. So my name is Sanjay, and I had a question about Alibaba. And I know you're great friends with Charlie Munger, and that's one of his favorite stocks he's been holding on to. And I've been following it when it was 250 or something, and now it's close to 100, less than that. So I think Alibaba is a great business. I think AliExpress is great, but with regards to China trying to take away stocks from American exchanges and putting them in Hong Kong and other countries, how big of a risk do you think that is? And what do you think overall of Alibaba as a stock, not as a company, like just a stockholder kind of perspective?
Well, I mean, I would just say that I think a business like Alibaba is unlikely to do things from a governance perspective which would hurt investors. I think it's a very high quality operation from that point of view, right from the original formation of the business. It got its start because of foreign investors. The earliest money that came in was not Chinese. And they have always respected their non-Chinese investors. And I don't think that will change if the listing changes and so on. So I don't think the risk with Alibaba is related to a listing going from New York to Hong Kong or something. I think that is an irrelevant data point. I think that the key issue to ask yourself is, what does the business look like 5 or 10 years from now? And if you have a view on what the business looks like after 5 or 10 years, then you would have a view on what the stock price might be at that point. And I can't help you very much on that. So not really in the stock tip business. But I would just say it's a high quality business. It's faced headwinds. It has very good management. It has multiple deep moats, but it also has challenges. And so you'd have to sift through all that and see where you land on that.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Mohnish, this is Vivek. Did you practice the 168 hours arbitrage stuff when you started the investment company, or did you stop only when you started IT consulting?
Yeah, so the investment company actually started as a hobby. So I was actually running the IT company when Pabrai Fund started. But what had happened is I had all these friends, and I used to give them stock tips when I met them in the mid and late 90s. And so from like 94 to about 99, 2000, I was just a private investor, but I'd done really well. I think north of 70% a year for like 5-6 years. And so I had $1 million that I'd gotten from selling a small portion of the business, and that $1 million had become 13 million. So when I used to make investments, after I bought my position, what do I care? I would just tell my friends, hey, I think this company is good and you should invest in it, and so on. So these guys would sometimes take me up on that, and but then, some guys worth 5 or 10 million, and they put 10,000 into whatever I told them, and it would triple or quadruple or something, but it wouldn't move the needle for them, right? So a few of them came to me and said, look, this stock tip business is random. You tell us something, then we don't see you for a while, and then we don't know whether you sold or what's happening. So they said, we want you to run money for us, like a pool for the friends. And so I said, okay, if I'm going to, manage your money, it wasn't going to be much, it was like $1 million from all of them combined. I want to do it in a manner which is going to make sure that it's, done in a good way. And so that's when I copied the Buffett rules and all of that. And I was really concerned about that I didn't want them to have losses, right? So what I did was I gave them a personal guarantee on the principal and a guarantee of a 6% annual return. What a country, And so because I just I didn't want a situation where I went upside down. And my take was, I had 13 million outside my company, and I was going to run $1 million fund. It didn't matter what happened, wouldn't affect me. And the funds were just a hobby. And then I think about a year later, I had sold the business, and I was looking at, I was really enjoying the investment management part of it, and I wanted to scale the operations. But I couldn't scale it with this guarantee, right? So I went to my investor, and the first year we were up like 70%. So I went to them and said, hey, listen, I want to do an amendment where we remove the guarantees. So they said, no, we like the guarantees. We don't want any such amendment. So I said, okay, I'm setting up a new fund, and we're closing the old fund and sending your money back. And they all came into the new fund with no guarantee. And life went on, still my friends, and worked out. And so, so I did do kind of a couple of things at the same time. And yeah, I think the Pabrai funds was even more exceptional. I think the amount, I don't think I invested more than $500 in the business. And there have been years when our earnings have been like 50 million. So it's great. It's a great economic model, worked well. Other questions?
Mohnish, my name is Pri Patel, and I'm actually a fund manager myself. And so one of the questions I have for you is, what's the best piece of advice you have, and not necessarily for fund management, but just in general to grow your business? What was the piece of advice that was given to you that has flourished and allowed you to grow?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think in terms of, I would say the way I kind of go through life is, I think in terms of what I would call hacks. And you can also think of it in terms of what Munger calls, he calls them mental models. And the thing is that once you understand a mental model and you go all in on it, then what starts happening is that, especially when you have 5 or 10 of them that you've gone all in on, and they interplay with each other. When you have an interplay between models, and most other humans are not functioning that way, you get a big advantage. So like for example, I talked about cloning as a model, right? So that gives you an advantage. Another mental model is, there's a book I read more than 2 decades ago. It's called Power versus Force, and it's kind of a weird book. I really like the book a lot. It's written by a guy named David Hawkins, who's kind of like a new age ponytail guru in Sedona, Arizona. He passed away a few years ago. And when I recommend that book to friends of mine, I get 2 kinds of reactions. One, they want to throw the book at me, and they hope it hurts me. They're like so pissed off with the book. Or the second is they love it. I don't get any reactions in the middle. It's okay. I never get, it's just okay. It's like one extreme or the other. No one is in the middle just saying, oh, it was just some okay book. So David Hawkins had this very weird idea, and I think that's where I lose some of my rational friends. He said that if I lie to you, and in your conscious state, you don't know that I'm lying to you, in your subconscious state, you do. And for most humans, there is a pipe between the subconscious and the conscious, but it's mostly clogged. And so the signal doesn't get through. But it's not 100% clogged. For most humans, it's not 100% clogged. Most humans might be like 90% clogged because of a bunch of life experiences. So there's a whole other session we could do on unclogging that pipe, but that's a different talk for a different day. But like, let's say, for example, you're talking to a used car salesman, okay? And he's, going a million miles an hour, trying to close the deal, right? You don't know what part of what he's telling you is a lie, but you know there's a lot of lies, okay? You just know that out of the 10 things he said, there are at least 4 of them that are not true, okay? You just don't know which 4. And if you are interacting with the Dalai Lama, like you've gone to Dalai Lama and you're hanging out with him and you're talking to him, you're probably going to come to the conclusion that the Dalai Lama is not lying to you. Okay, and you feel good being around the Dalai Lama. It feels great being around the Dalai Lama. So what Hawkins was saying is that humans emit these attractor fields. And so what happens is that when the used car salesman is talking to you, what Hawkins said is that if we put sensors on my muscles, not the used car salesman muscle, but my muscles listening to it, it's going to pick up signals which say that, and he talked in terms of going weak versus going strong. So he said if someone's lying to you, you're going to get a signal that says weak, and someone's not lying to you, it's going to say strong. And so basically what he said is, I mean, so the takeaway from that is if you just accept that. Now I've never done these probes and tested all of that, but I said, okay, let's accept that as the gospel truth. Let's accept what Hawkins is saying is correct. If you accept it's correct, then what you would conclude is that there's no point lying. What is the point of lying when the other guy is going to know that you're lying? He or she may not know exactly what you're lying about, but they won't feel good being around you. They'll kind of take it down. And I decided I'm going to, I like to test everything. Like you saw, I want to test Tom Peters. I said, I want to test this theory, okay? And I spent about probably 25 years testing this thing. And so let's say, for example, my wife, now my ex-wife, we're date night, we're going to see a movie and such, right? So as we're about to leave, she says, how do I look? Okay. And I look at the dress and I'm like, not crazy about the dress, right? Right? Now, the old Mohnish would have said, awesome, let's go. Okay. The new Mohnish said, we're going to test this out. I said, I think you can do better on the dress. And what would happen is, that was the end of the movie. Okay. There was no movie happening. Okay. But what happened is, the relationship became stronger. Now the thing is, she's the ex-wife now, but she's the largest investor I have, okay? And we split 8 figures in 30 minutes with no lawyers. I never saw the inside of a courtroom. We were done in 30 minutes, so, and probably get almost the same amount of messages from her now than before marriage, like what the hell, So anyway, so the thing is, it's a good relationship, it's a healthy relationship. And I think one of the reasons it's a healthy relationship is she has complete trust. Even now, she has complete trust. Because of, so what I did is, what I eliminated from my life about 2.5 decades ago was the small lies. So the big lies we know, of course, that if you do that, so then it's not going to work. And the thing is that the world functions on trust. It doesn't function on contracts. People have to be able to trust you. They're not doing business with you because there's some contract that's going to protect you. And like one guy told me that if we ever have to look at the contract, you're in trouble. There's a problem if you ever have to go back and look at the contract. So I would say that when I read Hawkins and I adopted that model, life became really easy. No need to be diplomatic. Let it fall where it falls, and just lay it out, and say things as you will, and I think it might be one of the reasons. Like I have a really good friendship with Buffett, but an even better friendship with Charlie. I probably see Charlie 4 or 5 times a year for dinner at his place. And in fact, I told him when I was moving to Austin, I said, Charlie, don't think about the fact that I'm not in California. When you think you want to have dinner, I can just take a Southwest flight, so it's okay. And he did take me up on it. So I got a call. He said, can you come on Friday or Saturday for dinner? And I asked him, is the Pope Catholic? And I was there. Okay. And I think part of the reason is that, these are intimidating guys. But the way I deal with it is, if they ask me anything, I'm just gonna give them a straight answer. I don't care what they think of the answer. I'm gonna tell them exactly the best, most truthful way I can say things. So I would say that if you follow that principle, the problem is the small lies. And the small lies is really what the half-truths is what is difficult. But if you can go down that path, I think the payoff long-term is huge. So that's what I would suggest. Okay.
So now the audience knows, right, why I had so many chais, right, with you.
I thought because I make great tea. Didn't you like the tea?
I love the tea, and I have a lot of that here in the Headliners Club. Actually, I can compensate for that. But no, so that point, right? The reason why I said that was we spoke about multiple things, right? One of them, and I think you spoke about